I don't really remember anyone sitting next to me and asking how I was doing. I mean, how I was actually doing. Not the kind of question people ask out of habit, not the kind they ask while already walking away. I mean the kind where someone stops, looks at you, and waits. That didn't really happen in my house. There was always noise. The TV was on, phones were buzzing, people coming in, people going out. But emotionally, it was quiet, too quiet. My parents weren't violent, they weren't cruel, they just weren't present. They were tired, busy, caught up in their own lives. And I learned something very early. If I stayed quiet, no one noticed. If I caused problems, at least someone reacted. At first, I tried the good kid route. Good grades, no complaints, no trouble. I thought that if I did everything right, someone would eventually see me. They didn't. There were no conversations, no recognition, no "I'm proud of you." So slowly, I stopped trying. School became a place where I existed but didn't belong. Teachers said I was calm, reserved. They didn't see what was building up. I watched other kids complain about strict parents, rules, arguments, and I remember thinking, at least someone cares enough to argue with you. Things really started changing in middle school, not all at once, quietly. I started staying outside longer after school, walking slower, taking the long way home. There was nothing waiting for me there anyway. That's when I met them, the older students, the ones teachers warned us about. They laughed loudly, didn't seem afraid of anything, and they noticed me. At first it was small, a comment, a joke, a gesture to sit with them. But for me, it was everything. Someone chose me. They didn't ask questions, they didn't judge, they just let me be there. And that felt like belonging. Looking back now, I understand something I didn't understand then. I wasn't bored, I was starving. Not for food, for attention, for validation, for connection. When you don't get that at home, you start looking for it elsewhere. Even if it's unsafe, even if it costs you. At first, the behavior wasn't extreme. Skipping classes, talking back, breaking small rules. Every time I crossed a line, they laughed, they approved, they made me feel powerful. At home, I felt invisible. With them, I felt seen. That difference changes you. Soon, teachers started calling home. My parents were confused. "This doesn't sound like him," they said. And maybe it didn't, but no one asked why it sounded like me now. At home, the response wasn't concern, it was irritation. They asked what I had done wrong. They warned me not to embarrass them, but no one asked what I needed. That's when I learned something important. If love isn't available, attention will do. And if attention isn't positive, negative attention is still something. So I leaned into it. I became louder, more impulsive, more reckless. I said things I didn't mean. I hurt people I didn't hate. I laughed at things that made me uncomfortable, because reactions felt like proof that I existed. Inside, though, I was confused. I didn't feel bad because I was a bad kid. I felt bad because I didn't recognize myself anymore. But admitting that meant risking loneliness again. So I kept going. At school, my reputation changed. Some teachers watched me closely. Some students admired me. Others avoided me. They thought I was confident. They didn't see how empty I felt when I was alone. At home, nothing changed. No conversations, no curiosity. I was given freedom without guidance. And freedom without care doesn't feel like trust. It feels like abandonment. There were moments where I wanted someone to stop me, to say, "This isn't you," to ask, "What's going on?" But no one did. So I kept answering questions no one asked with behaviors no one understood. Eventually, I started believing this version of me was permanent, that once you cross certain lines, there's no going back. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't acting out because I didn't care. I was acting out because I cared too much and no one noticed. Sometimes, late at night, I think about how different things could have been. Not with punishments, not with strict rules, just with presence. Someone sitting next to me, someone listening, someone noticing before things went wrong. I don't blame my parents entirely. I know they were struggling too, but children don't understand that. They only understand what they feel, and what I felt was alone. If there's one thing I want people to understand about students like me, it's this. We're not looking for trouble, we're looking for connection. And when we don't find it in safe places, we find it wherever it's offered, even if it costs us everything. I'm not telling this story to excuse my behavior, I'm telling it to explain it. Because behind most problem students is a child who needed something and didn't know how to ask. And sometimes, The loudest behavior comes from the quietest neglect.
When I listen to this student's story, the first thing that stands out isn't the behavior, it's the silence behind it. Long before a child starts acting out, there is usually a long period where they learned that being quiet was safer. This student didn't grow up in a visibly abusive home, and that matters. Because emotional neglect often hides inside families that look normal. Food on the table, a roof overhead. From the outside, everything seems fine, but emotionally, something essential is missing. Children don't just need rules, they need emotional presence. Someone who notices changes, someone who asks questions and waits for the answers. When that presence is missing, children adapt. And adaptation doesn't always look healthy. This student learned that emotions didn't create responses. So he stopped expressing them, not because he felt nothing, but because he felt too much, and no one responded. Over time, this creates a powerful belief. If I don't matter emotionally, I need another way to matter. And that's where behavior changes. Not because the child becomes bad, but because he becomes visible. Adolescence intensifies the need for belonging. Impulse control is still developing. Emotions are overwhelming. So when a teenager finds a group that offers acceptance and identity, the cost of joining often feels irrelevant, even if it's risky. Belonging feels better than loneliness. This student didn't choose harmful behavior because he didn't care. He chose it because it worked. It gave him recognition. At home, freedom existed without connection. And freedom without care doesn't feel like trust. It feels like being left alone. Without guidance, teenagers learn from peers. And peers teach survival, not emotional regulation. That's why we see impulsivity, risk-taking, and identity confusion. Punishment alone doesn't solve this. In fact, it often reinforces the belief, they only see me when I mess up. What this student needed was interpretation. Someone to say, I see what you're doing, and I understand why. Understanding doesn't excuse behavior, but it opens the door to change. Healing begins with consistency, someone showing up, not disappearing. Over time, the nervous system learns, I don't need to act out to be noticed. Shame keeps people stuck. Compassion creates movement. For families watching this, presence matters more than perfection. Listening matters more than fixing. And for students who recognize themselves here, your behavior is not your identity, and change is still possible. Sometimes, all it takes is one person who sees the child behind the behavior.